So, when we're talking about fraud, let's kind of get into some details here. What kind of fraud and scams are we talking about? Are you seeing? Do you see in your job, your career? But let's give a little more detail.
Sure. So I would say that business email compromise, which is also referred to as BEC, is probably one of the number one things that are facing our businesses today. It's very classic where the business's vendor is typically sending invoices for them to pay. At some point, the fraudster pretends to be the vendor. So either they have taken over their email, they're spoofing their email, which means it looks similar, but it's not the real one. And they send updated payment instructions. Hey, we've changed banks and our new routing number and account number is this. Please remit all of your payments to this new, to these new banking instructions. And that is what we see fairly often. Another common one is where the fraudster will pose as the CEO or CFO and be emailing somebody within the company, going into a meeting, I need you to send out this wire. I can't chat right now, but it's really important that you do this, etc. So those are like two common ways that we see this scam be perpetrated. I would say another is check fraud. People think that checks are going away, and we are seeing the number of checks issued decline, but unfortunately, we continue to see check fraud rise, and it's actually the number one form of payments fraud. And then cyber fraud. I think everybody's heard of phishing with a PH. Basically, you get an email. It could have a link or an attachment, and they're usually trying to harvest credentials or send you to a site, trying to get some kind of action from you there. Then there's something called spear phishing, which is more of a targeted attack. So they know that you specifically use Verizon or you specifically bank someplace. And so they're going to make a more crafted, more targeted email. There's whaling, which I did not make up these terms. And that's where they're targeting high level executives, your CEOs, CFOs, people in the C-suite. Smishing is basically phishing via SMS text. And then vishing is voice. So you're getting that call. And then there's also malware, which stands for malicious software. That's going to be your viruses, worms, Trojans, etc. And then ransomware is a subset of malware, but that is a huge risk to companies and something that we're seeing on the rise. And then lastly, I think businesses need to be aware of insider fraud. As much as we want to trust all the people that work for us, as small business owners, it's important that we put those protections in place and have those segregation of duties, et cetera.
Yeah, those internal controls are just critical as it relates to fraud and also as it relates to accounting. It's just a good practice. And I think, to your point, too many businesses, especially this on the smaller scale, really, I trust so-and-so because so-and-so has been with me for 20 years. Well, that's fine, but that key employee might also be going through something that you're completely unaware of, and may just make them, open to doing some things that they normally wouldn't do. So I totally agree. The internal controls, segregation of duties are critical. One other comment I would make, and this is a question I'd like you to kind of respond to, or a statement. A lot of these schemes seem to ask for an action driven by some change, an address or a signer or an amount or mailing address. I mean, is that a fair statement?
Yes and no. I would say most common is they're just trying to play on your emotions. So in addition to things being a change, they're also trying to create some kind of sense of urgency in a lot of cases. This is really important. It has to get done right now.
Right. The kind of the age-old con artist. It's just now the con artist is virtual and not in person.